Hi everyone, welcome back to the Mind Oracle channel, and today we'll be covering the working memory model. The working memory model improves upon the multi-store model of memory. It involves a slightly different organization of information once we have processed it in the memory store, and today we'll be looking at the individual components of this new system as well as its evaluations. The central executive acts as a monitor or attention. It receives information from other parts of the working memory model, and it then determines which system to allocate these tasks to. So think about the motherboard on your computer. It processes all kinds of different types of information and then decides which part of the computer is responsible for which task. The central executive has a limited capacity and also uses modality free encoding, which, if you remember, is a type of encoding that is relative to the sense being used. And this is particularly important for the central executive since it has to process different types of information from different parts of the working memory model. We're going to be taking a look at the phonological loop. So this deals with words and auditory information and has a duration of 2 seconds. And because it deals with words and auditory information, it encodes acoustically. Now, you need to remember that the phonological loop has two subsections. So it includes the phonological store, which keeps the words that you hear and is also known as your inner ear. It also consists of the articulatory control system, which allows maintenance rehearsal by repeating certain words. So think about when you need to remember, for example, a phone number and you keep repeating it in your mind so that you don't forget it. This would be an example of maintenance rehearsal. Next, we're going to be looking at the visuospatial sketchpad. So, like the name suggests, this deals with visual and spatial information. It has a limited capacity of 3 to 4 objects, and because it stores visual information, it encodes visually. It consists of the visual cache, which involves visual data storage, and it also consists of the inner scribe, which records where objects are in your visual field, for example, the spatial part. So, for both the phonological loop and the visuospatial sketchpad, you need to remember what type of information they both deal with, how they encode, what the capacity is, and also the two individual parts within these two components of the working memory model. So, finally, we're going to be taking a look at the episodic buffer. This is what ties in all the other components of the working memory model together. So, you need to know that it's a temporary store that integrates the information processed by other stores and records events as they happen. So when an event happens in a different part of the working memory model, the episodic buffer will record it and integrate that information. It links a working memory model to the long term memory and other cognitive processes like perception, which, if you remember, wasn't really mentioned in the multi store model of memory. We didn't really have a clear way to link a long term memory store or just the model in general to other processes. And it also has a limited capacity, so it can only store about 4 chunks. And like the central executive, it needs to deal with all sorts of different types of information, so it uses modality free encoding. It's also important to know that this was a late addition to the model, so it wasn't there originally, but it was later added on. Okay, so now we're finished with the main theory of the model, we're going to be moving on to evaluations, the first being research support. So Badley found that it was easier to remember shorter words than longer words. So this supports the idea that the duration of the phonological loop is very short and it's only about 2 seconds long. This improves the credibility of the working model of memory as an explanation for how we store information in our memory stores. So, to kind of summarize this, because it's easier for us to remember words that are shorter, it kind of resonates this idea that our phonological loop, which deals with words and auditory information, can only really store information for a limited amount of time before it starts to forget. Another strength of the working model of memory is the fact that it has real life application in helping individuals with dyslexia. So, research suggests that dyslexia is attributed to deficits within the individual's working model of memory because it shows that people with dyslexia performed worse on phonological tasks. So, this suggests that helping people improve their skills with phonological tasks can help improve their condition. So, that would be an example of an intervention that can benefit their lives and improve the quality of their life, making their working model of memory have really good real life application. Finally, we're going to be looking at a weakness of this model, which is the idea that it is not fully explained. So, while this model does improve upon the multi-style model of memory, it's still regarded as being too vague. This is because a case study showed that an individual was struggling with decision making tasks, but was able to engage well with reasoning tasks. So, this case study suggests that there are actually multiple subcomponents of the central executive, like how the phonological loop has two different subsections and the visual spatial sketchpad has two different subsections. But the working memory model doesn't really account for the idea that the central executive has subsections. So, we can still say that it is overall a simplistic explanation of how memories are stored that requires further development. Now, before we move on to the practice section of the video, I just want to remind you guys to please keep a lookout for our upcoming website, the Mind Orbit. While these videos are a great way to improve your understanding, the website is really going to help you to get lots of access to top model answers, essay revision sites, notes, textbooks, and much more to help you get the top A's and A stars that you deserve. So please keep a lookout and we will keep you updated when the website is ready. Also, if you ever are looking to take a break from the topics that you learn inside the classroom and want to explore what psychology is like outside of the curriculum, please do take a look at our sister channel, Mystic Mind, where we cover all sorts of different topics. Like, for example, this month we're focusing on productivity hacks and how to actually get all your work done and scientific based research to beat procrastination. Next month, we'll be doing a Halloween special focusing on paranormal psychology, and throughout the year, we have much more planned. So please take a look at this channel if you ever want to take a break and just learn about psychology in real life and outside of the curriculum. So now we're going to take a break and we're going to look at this exam practice question. So please pause the video and answer it. It's outline three components of the working memory model, and if you can remember to evaluate it. So just to recap what we've learned in the video, you can talk about any of the components that you want realistically, and because it is 6 marks and they're asking for three components, that would logistically mean 2 marks per component. So just name it and include, a slight description of it, and that should get you all the marks. So in the example I've written here, it has a central executive, phonological loop, and visual spatial sketchpad. You can include the main responsibility of it. So for example, phonological loop deals with words and auditory information. You can also include the type of encoding, the duration, the capacity, etc. And yeah, so for these kinds of questions, just think through it logically. Don't spend too much time answering it because the mark scheme is pretty straightforward with the fact that you just need to name three components and then offer a brief description of each one to secure 2 marks for each component. So that's it for the working model of memory. If you found this video useful, please do like and subscribe and let me down in the comments which was your favorite part, as well as anything that you feel like we could do to improve these videos. We're always looking for feedback. And thank you for watching. See you next time.